Welcome to Dejobnik, your command post for clarity and perspective.
Good afternoon. I'm Avi Hyman, Israeli government spokesman. This is day 150 of the October 7th war. 150 days since the biggest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. 150 days since 253 Israeli men, women, children, and babies were pulled out of their homes and taken into captivity in Gaza. 150 days of war against a brutal enemy that worships death. First, I'll start with an update on our casualties from this war. IDF fatalities since the October 7th massacre have unfortunately risen to 586. That is up 4 since our last briefing on Thursday. The people of Israel grieve with the families of Sergeant Dolev Malka, who was aged just 19, from Shlomi in northern Israel, right up against the border with Lebanon. Sergeant Malka left behind his parents and 2 brothers. Sergeant Dolev Malka's family had been just one family from amongst the 126,000 Israelis that have been displaced from their homes because of the threat from Hezbollah and Hamas. Sergeant Afik Terry was only 19 years old. He came from the central town of Rehovot. He was described as an outstanding student with high ambitions, loved by his friends. He is survived by his parents. Sergeant Inon Yitzhak was just 20. He came from the Negev town of Mitzpei Ramon. Inon was known for his smile that was said to lift the soul. It emanated humility and modesty. Malka, Terry, and Inon were killed in a booby-trapped building in Khan Yunis. Sergeant Major Reserves Denis Yekimov, who was 33, fell in the south of Gaza and lived in Petach Tikva. He leaves behind a young daughter. There are no words for consolation. We embrace their parents and their dear families who have lost their precious hero sons in this war for our very existence. The price of war is heavy and painful. Each casualty is a world unto itself, but we fight for complete victory because we have no other country. Our hearts go out to all the families of those soldiers killed in action, as well as those who were murdered, taken hostage, and wounded. May their memories be a blessing. Now, an update from Kogat. Yesterday, 277 trucks carrying humanitarian aid were inspected and transferred to Gaza for the civilian population. This is the highest number of trucks to be transferred in one day since the start of the war. The aid is intended for the civilian population of Gaza, not for the Hamas terrorists who are constantly working together with their enablers to steal it. We say again, there is no limit to the amount of aid that can enter Gaza. I'll say that again. There is no limit to the amount of aid that can enter Gaza. Because UNRWA is intertwined with terror, it needs to be dissolved. Because of their complicity with Hamas, the War Cabinet has approved plans for improved distribution of humanitarian assistance to Gaza to prevent the looting that caused the deaths of Gazans on Thursday. Now, an update from our efforts to free the hostages and return them to their families. We will do everything to release the 134 Israelis that are still cruelly held by Hamas. Alongside the military pressure, diplomatic efforts continue, and Israel is in constant contact with the mediating countries in order to secure a deal. Hamas holding civilians hostage is a crime against humanity. They use cruel and inhumane psychological terror. Hamas is responsible for the safety of every single hostage. As my Prime Minister has said, quote, "We are making a relentless effort to return all of our hostages. This is a sacred goal. We are working on it around the clock. I demand to know in advance the names of all the hostages who will be included in the outline." End quote. I can tell you that Israel has yet to receive an answer on this crucial question. We are willing to make a hostage release deal, and we are making great efforts to succeed. But one thing is clear. As the Prime Minister has said, quote, "We will not capitulate in the face of Hamas's delusional demands. We will not do this because if we capitulate, we will simply not be here." End quote. We know that thanks to a combination of military pressure and tough negotiations, we have succeeded in returning 112 of our hostages. Quote, "We are determined to return them all, with or without an outline. We will fight until total victory." Now, an update on Thursday's terror attack at the gas station in the town of Eli. The victims were Rabbi Yitzhak Ziga, 57, who was a Magen David Adom and Zaka volunteer, and Oria Hartum, a 16-year-old teenager from Dolev. It's important to note that they were gunned down by none other than a Palestinian Authority policeman. Also in Samaria today, in the town of Nablus, the home of the Hamas terrorists that gunned down 3 members of the British-Israeli D family, was blown up in an overnight operation by the IDF. You will remember Lucy, Maya, and Rena D were on their way to a seaside vacation when their Nissan Micra was sprayed with automatic gunfire. Speaking earlier today, Rabbi Leo D told me that he found solace in the fact that, quote, "the destruction of the home of the terrorist will act as a deterrent to future terrorists and save lives." Now an update from the north of Israel. In the last few hours, Hezbollah anti-tank missiles from Lebanon hit the area of Margaliot. Magen David Adom has reported 1 person killed, with 8 casualties, including Thai nationals. Once again, indiscriminate killing of civilians, with no regard whatsoever for human life, just like on October 7th, when Hamas killed and took hostages, irrespective of who they were, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, Israelis and foreign nationals alike. There can be no justification, no explanation, and no rationalization given to these cowardly acts of terror. The IDF struck the source of the launch. IDF fighter jets also struck Hezbollah in the area of Shichnin. Hezbollah's terrorist activity and attacks against Israel violates UN Security Council Resolution 1701. The IDF will defend Israel's borders from this threat. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's updates. Now I'll be happy to take your questions if you put them in the chat box. I do ask again that you state your name and the outlet that you're with. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got 2 questions of a very similar nature from Jody Cohen, World is One News in India, and also from Jim Williams of Zenga International News Service, Washington, D.C. They ask, what is the purpose of Benny Gantz's visit to the US and the UK? And can you comment on reports that the trip is taking place without the Prime Minister Netanyahu's prior approval?
So, obviously, Minister Gantz is an integral member of the War Cabinet. Israel stands united as never before in our aims to destroy Hamas, to bring home the 134 hostages, and to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to the state of Israel. I can only be sure that Mr. Gantz's visits will have all of those war goals in mind, and I wish him the very best of luck.
Second question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Can you comment on the possible timeline for a hostage deal with Hamas? President Biden promised a deal by today, which hasn't happened, and the Wall Street Journal says Hamas believes a deal is possible within 2 weeks. Will Israel wait, or will it attack Hamas in Rafah if a deal is not reached by March 10th, the deadline set by Benny Gantz?
Joel, that's a whole lot of questions to unpack. I'll try and get to them one by one. I think we've already stated our position on negotiations. Firstly, it must be said that we will not negotiate over a press conference. We won't negotiate on the television. Negotiations continue through all of the channels open to us. To date, as I just stated in the name of the Prime Minister, we haven't even got a list. We haven't even got a list of the names of the people that we're supposed to be negotiating the release of. We don't know. We don't know how those people are doing medically. They have not been allowed visits by the Red Cross. These are simple things. These are simple requests. These are usually the type of simple requests that are given before negotiations start. So we're asking for those simple things. Who have you got? Let us know once and for all. Let the families know. And what is the status of those people? Let the families know. So that's as far as that's concerned. As far as our attack on Rafah, I'll reiterate that if we don't take care of the four, we've taken out 18 out of 24 Hamas battalions. There's 2 in Khan Yunis, which we're currently fighting. There's an additional 4 in Rafah. If we don't take on those 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah, then we haven't completed the aims of the war of destroying Hamas. And if we don't destroy Hamas, then Hamas will return to October 6th. They will return to their aims as they have stated, and as Vice President Kamala Harris spoke of yesterday, of Hamas's aims to perpetrate October 7th again, and again. We won't let that happen. We're going for total victory.
Question from Leah Soroka at the Washington Post. Netanyahu said last week that he demands to know in advance the names of all the hostages who will be included in the outline. Today, according to Al Arabiya, Hamas provided the number of Palestinian prisoners they demanded to be released. Has there been any progress in the Cairo talks on these 2 issues?
Not sure I fully understand the question. I've just spoken to the Prime Minister's demand to see a list of names and condition of the hostages. I don't have any further update than what I've just said.
A second question from Leah Soroka at the Washington Post. Channel 13 reported yesterday that the Israeli ambassador to Washington, Mike Herzog, was told by Netanyahu's office not to handle Gantz's Gantz's visit to the US. Is it true, and if so, why?
I can't confirm on unsourced reports. I have said my piece as far as Minister Gantz. We wish him the best.
Thank you. Question from Frederick Ager from Interplanetary TV. A Hamas political official told the BBC that Hamas cannot give Israel a list of living hostages because it does not itself know who is alive and where all the hostages are and says to Arab media, the ball is in Israel's court on the hostage talks. What is your response?
These are the same old Hamas games that sadly we are used to. These are the same games that they played in the last humanitarian pause when we were able to free 112 of our hostages. Until the last minute, they weren't telling us the details. Until the last minute, they were changing the lists, etc. This is Hamas's way. It's not enough to perpetrate the war against the crime against humanity. It's not enough to perpetrate the war crime of taking innocent men, women, children, and babies hostage. They have to toy with the families too. It's a simple request. Let us know who you've got and what is their condition. Hamas can do that. Hamas can do that by making a few phone calls.
Question from Jean-Philippe Rubin, Breslev, Israel Media Group. Twisted ideologies have destroyed and continue to destroy millions of people in the name of their truth. US President Biden speaks often of his family's duty to keep and spread the faith, the Bible's truth. Could faith-based diplomacy achieve successful political results in the international system?
Thank you for your question. I will refer to our negotiation team, who are very well versed in all forms of negotiation, using all channels and all methods. Any way that we can relate to those on the other side of the negotiation table will be used to our advantage. As I've said and will continue to say, one of our primary goals in this war is to release the 134 Israeli hostages. If we can do that by relating on a personal level or on any kind of level, we will do that. 134 Israelis are being held. It is a crime against humanity. They must be released unconditionally today.
Question from Hannah Julian at the Jewish Press. How does Minister Gantz's trip impact the Israeli government's relations with the Biden administration and Israel's ability to negotiate effectively for the hostages?
Again, we will continue to do everything in our ability to both negotiate and keep up the military pressure on Hamas until 134 Israelis are brought home to their families. They are languishing in Hamas terror dungeons, and they deserve to be with their families. I pray that Minister Gantz's visit and conversations will help us come that much closer to the war aims to destroy Hamas, to bring home the hostages, and to ensure that never again can Hamas pose a threat to the state of Israel.
Thank you. That was the last question.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.